everybody. I'm Ted DiBiase, the $1 Million Man, and everybody's got a prize for lazy booking. Hey, this is your Olympic hero, Kurt Angle, and you're listening to Lazy Booking. No, it's true. It's damn true. Ho! Hey, folks, I'm WWE Hall of Famer Hacksaw Jim Duggan, and if you want to know what's going on in wrestling, check out Lazy Bookings. Ho!
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a brand new edition of Lazy Booking right here on A2DRadio.com. We are live from the Real Talk Studios here in Mount Ephraim, New Jersey, brought to you by Gibson Mayer LLC, your certified public accountants, located at 301 Oxford Valley Road in Yardley, PA. You can give them a call, 215-369-3300. It's that time of the year again, so be ready, be prepared, and call Gibson Mayer.
Thursday night, we are back. Lazy Booking coming at you with the Ginger Gang, Ryan and Brodo over on the ones and twos. We're ready to talk to the fam on Instagram, Periscope, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, the website, wherever you guys talk to us. We're looking forward to it. We're talking Elimination Chamber review. We're going to talk about some big call-ups that happened this week. Pre-announced but unexpected nonetheless. And then we're going to talk on a few news points that came out this week, particularly one breaking news today. Roman Reigns will be making an appearance on Monday Night Raw in front of the crowd to give an update as far as his health condition is concerned. Looking forward to that. But, yeah, guys, Elimination Chamber pay-per-view. Overall rating out of 10, how would you rate this pay-per-view?
If I had to say, I'll be fair. I'll give it like a 7 only because of some surprises that I saw during the pay-per-view.
Yeah. I would go with, I think 7's a fair score. I actually thought it was a pretty good pay-per-view overall. And speaking of surprises, our Scanzano Sports poll question this week is, what was the biggest surprise in WWE this week, essentially? Was it Kofi Kingston and the rise of Kofi? Was it Finn winning the Intercontinental title? Was it the NXT call-ups that we saw this week? Or was it Becky absolutely destroying Charlotte and Ronda?
She did.
She did. That was spectacular. I'm looking forward to talking about that.
Beat him so bad.
So as far as this week and in regards to the poll question, what would you find to be the biggest shocker of the week?
I wouldn't necessarily. I'm not gonna say the Becky thing because I don't know. I could kind of see that kind of stuff happening. Mm-hmm. But I'm gonna say the NXT call-ups only because that is shocking that they would do it ahead of schedule as they have, and the fact that it was champions that they called up, not just anybody. Champions they called up, because most of the time rule of thumb is if you got a belt, you're not going up to the main roster. They completely decided to say, fuck that rule, we're bringing you up.
Yeah, it was really surprising. I mean, aside from Kevin Owens was really the only guy that came up to the main roster with the title and essentially started and kicked off a program with John Cena, and that was an unforeseen event that happened where he just kind of appeared during the U.S. title Open Challenge. So I would agree. I mean, and honestly, I feel like all of these are valid in a sense because, obviously we talked about Finn and I believe some people may have picked Finn last week. For me, it was a surprise. I think it might have been Ryan who said, they did the same kind of similar thing with Rockstar Spud or whatever his name is now. I forget what it is.
Let's just go with Rockstar Spud.
Drake Maverick. That's right. For some reason, it slipped my mind.
Okay, Rockstar Spud.
But with Drake Maverick and obviously with the AOP losing the tag team titles to the Glorious Ones, I guess you could kind of foresee it coming. I'm just a little bit surprised because I felt like with the momentum that Finn has been getting, and they have been featuring him more since the quote-unquote fan era, is kind of where I'm kind of calling it now, to where they're supposed to be listening to the fans more. I thought that this would be a WrestleMania moment that they would build to, so I was a little bit surprised by that.
Yeah.
Maybe, and we talked about it last week, maybe we got the Demon who would be the one to overcome and finally get it over the top.
Yeah, I thought the same thing, too. I thought, rule of thumb would have said, you know what, you drag it out till Mania because that way you have a big Intercontinental title match. I mean, not to say that Finn having the belt isn't a big thing. It is, but you figured you'd wait until Mania to officially crown him Intercontinental Champion.
For sure. And obviously with Kofi Mania going on with the performance that he had in the Gauntlet match, the way that match was booked, and we'll break it down a little bit more, I thought was a little more of the surprise of it. Not that I'm really that surprised that something organically is growing as quickly as as it is. It's almost like a wildfire. But I guess the booking of it I thought was absolutely brilliant in that match, by the way. And we're going to talk about it in a minute. But the stark contrast and differences of the two chamber matches I thought is what really made each one of them stand out, because they weren't the same. And I'll explain to that when we get to that. And obviously with Becky and Charlotte and Ronda, it was just the viciousness of the attack. That was a bit of a surprise in the way that kind of all broke down.
It was such a beatdown. You could almost consider it a hate crime.
Oh, my Lord.
She just absolutely pummeled both Charlotte and Ronda with a crutch.
Oh.
They both had scars the following night on Raw.
God. I mean, Ronda had to get stitches. It was crazy.
Jesus.
But then obviously you kind of touched on the NXT call-ups, and we'll break that down in our second segment. But all of them valid. I would probably lean the way that you did with the NXT call-ups. We'll definitely touch on that. We're going to break those down a little bit more in depth. But obviously the card opened up with the first ever women's tag team championships being put on the line in the women's elimination chamber. How did you feel about the match and the way that everything was booked? I mean, I'm sure you were happy with the outcome.
Oh, I was very happy with the outcome.
Your girl,
there were two results. That one was a pleasant surprise. That was the pleasant surprise. The other one with Finn was, okay, where are we going with this kind of surprise, But I would say as the match overall, I think there were a few things that were, like there were a few moments where I kind of like, that didn't look so good. That didn't look so good. I felt like there was a few botches here or there. I don't think it was as good as the men's elimination chamber, and I felt a little bad for them because I'm like, and they were crowning the first women's tag champs. You would want that one to be the better one, But there was a few really interesting moments, like the spot with the Iconics getting flung around
that was amazing,
that was probably the best spot of the entire match. And that came from Tamina and Nia, and it wasn't a high-flying flippy spot. It was actually a spot where it was just brute power being demonstrated. I'm like, well, there you go, a classic spot right there. Literally just two powerhouses flinging two very skinny models around. Like, well, there you go, there. That was probably the one thing that stuck out to me the most besides the result. That, and also Peyton almost, I think, knocked Bayley's block off with her foot when she kind of botched going over the top rope. And if Sasha's hand hadn't been there to stop it, Bayley's probably would have lost a couple teeth. But anyway.
No, I mean, see, I mean, there was a few little issues with spots, which – I mean, that happens even in men's elimination chambers. There's so much chaos going on inside of there.
It does. I just feel like a lot of them got shown a little bit more prominently. If there were any in the men's, they got away from it and they were able to get it off camera. There was
WWE's camera work has been terrible.
Oh, yes.
By the way.
And that's another thing too. Whoever was in charge of like doing the cuts live, that man is an idiot, because you literally could see a part, and during the women's elimination chamber, by the way, you could see Sasha calling a spot with I believe Sonya. I was like, oh my God, you just fucked up so royally. It's like, I know some people may glance over that, but as a smart, you kind of see these things. You're like, shit, they just saw a spot being called. Like, what the fuck? Who's in charge of cutting today? Like, who's in charge of the switches right now? Because that man needs to be relieved of his duties right now.
Yeah, I mean, the camera work has been really tough lately, not just with Elimination Chamber, but Raw and SmackDown too.
Yeah.
But with that, I saw it a little bit differently. What I liked about the women's match was that they didn't start eliminating teams right away.
Oh, no, they didn't.
They allowed all teams to get in, all teams to have high spots and points, including the Iconics, who kind of came in and just ran roughshod for about 5 or 6 minutes in there. I enjoyed that. And then you saw the dominance of Tamina and Nia at one point until Nia absolutely destroyed
Yes, she did.
the inside of the chamber. That was insane when she ran into the pod. I mean, damn. She trucked through that.
She did.
My buddy made the joke of it's like a cartoon. You see the birds just going over top of her head. But yeah, no, I mean, I enjoyed a lot of that. And I liked that they did feature each team and gave a little bit of a legitimacy. Like there was no team that I felt seemed out of place or they didn't belong there, which, you know, on paper, you look at some of the teams and it's like, you know, you see, you know, Nia and Tamina, it's like, am I going to believe that the Iconics can overcome them and this and that? But every team was featured, and I was pleasantly surprised, or not pleasantly surprised. I was happy with who the final two were, because I do feel like there's going to be a push that's going to continue with Mandy Rose and with Sonya.
Well, I could see that being the WrestleMania women's tag match between Sasha and Bayley and Sonya and Mandy.
Yeah, I could see that, or I could see like a Four Corners tag match.
Something like that, yeah.
I've heard the names Lita and Trish thrown out there, which would be interesting.
I mean, I could understand why you want to do it for Mania because, you know, it's the big show. But if you're going to do that, should have a multi-team match, in my opinion. Because if you do Lita and Trish, it's like, okay, well, it's going to be a title defense.
Yeah.
So you don't want
Well, I mean, there's a lot of good directions. But what I did enjoy was that they established it as a division.
Yeah.
And made all the teams have opportunities to look strong. I would have rather seen Mandy and Sonya win. I was more leaning towards that. Unfortunately, the predictability of Sasha and Bayley wins. Here's my issue with this.
Is it the predictability?
It's not just the predictability. It's that this is a women's evolution. And I understand that they are considered part of that core group that kind of got the division to where it is at this point over the last 5 years.
Yeah.
But I don't think because of that, they should be given every first to where at some point, I know Carmella, who was part of that whole era, Carmella did get to win the first Money in the Bank, which, by the way, was won by a man.
That was kind of a smack in the face.
But that's neither here nor there. But, you know, it's always, okay, we have Charlotte win the first women's championship that we've had in 15 years or whatever it was.
True.
Or 12 years.
And if I stand correct, she was the first one to win both the Raw and the SmackDown women's titles.
And now we have, Sasha and Charlotte were the first women in the Hell in the Cell match. And the first women's TLC match was
you can even go back a little further. First ever Iron Man match between two women was Bayley and Sasha in NXT. Even if you don't count it, it's still Charlotte and Sasha. So either way, Like,
I think to legitimize it as a true revolution, you need to empower more of the women. And I look at somebody like Mandy Rose. Listen, I mean, I'm not saying she's the best in the ring. We know that, but she has come a long way. She clearly, for the comparisons that she got to an Eva Marie, but the stark contrast in what you see, because the difference is both of them come from a similar background, but one jumped in head first and has shown strides, has shown a passion and dedication to learn the craft and the entertainment version.
I look at it this way. For people who like to criticize that, it's like, well, as long as they have the effort, as long as they're trying as best they can to get in that ring and learn and recover and do every of the little things right. Like, I look at it this way. You don't have to be the best, because this is the same kind of sport where Goldberg was a world champion and Goldberg can only do 3 moves.
Yeah.
So it's like, if Goldberg could be a world champion, then Mandy has just as much of a shot to be a women's champion, as long as she continues to strive and do the things right. Because that's one thing she'll have better than Goldberg. Goldberg never tried to get any better than what he was. At least Mandy's trying to get better with what she's doing. And so that way you can almost say she's trying to do more, so you could say that at least,
Yeah. I would like to see more women be given the quote unquote first opportunities, not just not getting a participation trophy, but I would have liked to have seen Manny Rose and Sonya Deville come out of that.
I hear that side of it, and I definitely I agree to that extent that, yeah, you're right. The first shouldn't always go to the same 4 women, really 3, because Becky has only been the first SmackDown Women's Champion and other things. But
listen, I mean, I'm not gonna argue that those women, as far as WrestleMania in the first women's main event, like true main event of it, those women participating, which is why I've softened my stance on Charlotte being in it. Also, the fact that Charlotte you forgot how good of a heel Charlotte really can be, and she's getting back into that sweet spot she was in previously.
And that's the whole reason why I saw why she got put in the first place. And again, I understood why everybody was pissed about it. And I'm like, why is she in the match? You don't need it. You can have Becky versus Ronda. Yes, in theory you can. But the problem is that Ronda's going to get the heel treatment. And that's not what WWE wants. They want one of their A-list celebrities to actually be cheered when she walks out to the ring. Because since she's such a merchandise, phenomenon, you cannot afford that. Yeah. But on top of that, I hear the side with the first and everything, and you're right. It is kind of unfair. It's kind of like the 4 horsewomen are kind of hoarding a lot of the firsts, and they're not being given out to the women that came after it. The only prominent ones that are outside of the 4 horsewomen are maybe Naomi, Carmella, and Alexa. And then after that, you're still building up the other ones. Oh, and Nia, of course. But overall, the major reason why I disagreed with the finish, I wasn't angry at the finish, but I disagreed with it, is just from the Booker side of me saying, logic would tell you heel wins first ever to piss off the baby faces, and that makes the baby faces come off really strong and get their heat back by winning at WrestleMania. To me, that would have made more sense just in the Booker and me saying that,
Yeah. I mean, that's my little nitpick, but listen, I mean, it was a good match. I enjoyed it. I'm not super shocked by it. And what I enjoyed most about it as the night played out later was that it wasn't that both chamber matches were different.
Yes.
Couple things over here with the fam before we move on the card. Rob Lutman, he says, let's go. What's up, Rob? Aaron Warren, he says, hey, I farted. Man, you should have been around us before we went on the air, buddy.
Yeah.
John C. Danzo says, I have a question. With all the Kofi Kingston talk, will they turn Big E heel? And what will they do with Xavier Woods? Who will he go with if they split?
It's weird because, in a way, it's kind of like when you knew the inevitable breakup, not to the same extent, but you knew the inevitable breakup of the Shield was coming.
Yeah.
And everybody who was an indie, darling, pretty much thought Jon Moxley was going to be the one to break free. In case you don't know, Dean Ambrose. Mm-hmm. The internet was very much believing that, or the WWE was very much believing it was going to be Roman Reigns, but it turned out it was Seth at first that broke out of that and won the title the first time and really had a great run as a heel before his knee blew out and ruined all of it. But it's kind of the same level to a degree. It's kind of like people are debating, okay, is it going to be Big E that's going to be the big star? And some people are very much looking at Big E. Maybe WWE backs Kofi if they can manage to book it properly, since he's getting all this fire behind him.
Yeah.
It's almost like, oh, never mind. This was the kind of the C option coming out of nowhere.
If I was a betting man, I would say it's going to be Big E. I've heard Kofi tossed around as being the guy to turn. What wouldn't make sense is the fire that he has and the momentum that he has right now as a face, with the WWE Universe really backing him. It's almost and it's only a week, so I'm not getting ahead of myself.
Yeah.
But it has the potential to almost be, an uplifting story like the Daniel Bryan organic build that happened.
Yes.
And what would be the irony is to have him go in as the face against Daniel Bryan. I'm not convinced that they're even going to totally break the New Day up. But if I was a betting man, I would say Big E would make the turn. I think that Xavier would probably be a mid-card guy.
He'd be the Dean Ambrose of the group.
He would probably be the and listen, he's a worker. I think that would be a great spot. I mean, he's already a Hall of Famer. That whole group, It's not out of the realm. It's not crazy to compare them to the Shield because they are probably the two greatest factions in WWE programming in 15 years.
They're one of the more prominent
Since
tag
Evolution's
teams.
first run.
Pretty much, yeah. They're one of the more prominent tag teams that have come out of WWE in recent years. And the only other team that's been able to keep up pace with them has been the Usos.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, though, other teams were broken up very prematurely, and so we never really got a chance to see what would happen, and some got booked terribly.
Some, yes,
You
but
know,
some
but-
also were broken up and had great singles careers.
They did, and that's no offense to them. I just think like some teams like American Alpha, they got broke up and shit just didn't work out. I mean, Gable's doing fine, I guess, to an extent with Rude.
I like him with Rude a lot.
I mean,
actually. It was weird the way that they got to where they're at, but I feel like the end game is kind of paying off, and I'm always a fan of, and I grew up in the era watching tag teams where, it was the speed guy and the high flyer, and then you had the powerhouse or the technician. That was kind of what was great about, you had that great technician in Bret Hart who could come off of a second rope and he could move around with a little bit of speed. And then you had that brooding powerhouse in Jim the Anvil Neidhart. I always felt like they were the best tag teams in the golden era.
Yeah, you could talk about the Hart Foundation, the Bulldogs. Dynamite was doing the flying headbutt,
Exactly.
and he was doing all the speed moves. Davey was the power of the group.
Absolutely. I mean, I always felt like that was a good chemistry as far as building a great tag team, and I feel like they've gotten there a lot more and a lot quicker. It just was like a weird kind of start, It was like, is he being like the creepy uncle kind of guy? Is this like the old guy from Family Guy with Chris, where he's just,
Oh God!
But it got there, and I really think that they work really well as a tag team. I think it kind of rejuvenated Rude a little bit.
It did, because you know what? They had a great match with the Revival, and
Yes.
I don't think that was it the night the titles changed hands? It was the main event of Raw, but it deserved to be the main event of Raw because it was a really good match.
Well, the titles changed hands in the middle of the show, but it was a really good match. You're absolutely right.
But still.
But no, I think that if they do that, it'll probably be Big E. It wouldn't shock me if they leave them together, even if they're doing singles things and not as much team stuff, but they're still like not a full breakup like the Shield.
Yeah.
There's so much merchandising behind them. The money that team makes with their merchandising, their appearances, and all that is through the roof. And it would shock me because to this day, they sell fucking shirts that say Pancake Power and like weird shit like that. But guess what? It sells. People love it. It flies off the shelves.
I mean, at the same time, too, look at the ring attire they're wearing. There was a time period where if you dressed like that, you'd get your ass kicked in the locker room.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy how time flies or how times change. Aaron had said Kofi will be the one to turn. That's what the E does. Gets a super hot baby face, gives them the strap, and then shits on the fans and turns them heel. I could see Kofi at some point turning. He's never really been a heel. I don't think we're going to see that. I'll put it this way. I'm trying to just get to WrestleMania season and to WrestleMania, and at least at this point, they're going to ride that while they have it.
Honestly, I think WWE is trying to get to WrestleMania season right now with the way they've been booking recently. As they're like, shit, what the fuck do we do? We still got a whole month before fucking WrestleMania, and we don't even have a really solid WWE title main event. What the fuck?
And Aaron says it's his first time with us, man. Welcome. We hope you join us. We're here every Thursday night. We also have another wrestling show, by the way, that is on Mondays. It is not a live show. We drop it, but it comes on Mondays at noon called In This Very Ring.
But they get to
great
have
guys,
those
Jackson
reactions
Riss.
right after they happen.
That's great if you want instant reaction to stuff the next day after the events. But yeah, so moving on now to the to the actual tag team title, the men's tag team title match.
SmackDown tag titles, yeah.
Shocked that the Usos defeated The Miz and Shane?
I'm not really, and you want to know why? Because I think last week, Mataraki or you or Brodo, somebody said it was going to wind up being Miz and Shane at Mania. So in a way,
yeah,
I could see where their line of thinking is. You take the belts off them. This starts that problem that Miz is having right now. That sort of lack of confidence because he's the one who got pinned and they lost the SmackDown titles to the Usos.
Right.
I could see that line of thinking of them losing the belts. Plus also, in a way, it helps Shane because, Shane isn't exactly the youngest buck in the whole world. So I think the best option would be the least amount of title defenses or the least amount of matches you can get Shane in, the more you get out of Shane, at least mileage-wise. I could see that.
Yeah, I mean, at first, I think my gut reaction was surprised for two reasons. I thought they would drop the title at Fastlane, so I was a little shocked by that. And secondly, obviously, the well-known issue that happened with Jey Uso, or what is it, Jimmy?
Oh, yeah,
Jey
that's
Uso,
right. Yeah.
Previous, the week leading in. So I was a little surprised that they continue to carry out with that. But it does make a lot of sense. It gives them time. It kind of starts the friction, but it's like under the surface kind of. I'm going to be interested, though. We have Mrs. Dad's going to be appearing. Is that on SmackDown, or that's the next pay-per-view, right?
That's a good question. I forget.
Anyway, they're having an appearance where Mrs. Dad's going to show up. I think it's the pay-per-view where he's going to have tickets for the front row. So I'm going to be very interested to see how that plays out. Is that going to be Shane turns on Miz in front of his dad and embarrasses him, and then it's a whole, Shane McMahon, Miz battle? Miz, to me, is going to end up coming out the face in this.
Do you either that or
you don't put all that work in to make Miz a face at this
true.
point, a
Then
hot
just
face.
to turn him right back heel. Yeah.
But Ryan's giving me the arms like, I don't know. He thinks I'm nuts. You can put it on, Ryan. I want to hear your comment on this.
Yeah.
I would just think, we would both agree that The Miz is better as a heel, correct?
In terms of where he was previously, yes.
I believe that if it goes this far to where he's the ultimate good guy and then he goes all the way back to a bad guy, I agree with you. They wouldn't go so far to make him a good guy and then turn him back. But imagine if they did turn him back. Imagine the shock and awe and the amount of heat he gets immediately.
I almost say like he wins.
I don't think it happens that way.
I feel like he would get cheered, so I'm going to go away.
Yeah.
I almost see him doing that, but seeing him do it if he wins the championship. Like you can literally have him pull a complete rug right from out under the fans where they think like, oh, cool, The Miz won the WWE title. Finally, he got the belt back and everything. And then he just pisses all of them off and he just goes right back to being a heel. To me, that'd be funny to see, just to see all the fucking fans get so mad at him.
Yeah, see, I don't think that you'll see that at all. I think it's going to make a lot more sense to have The Miz get embarrassed in front of his father.
Yeah.
Kind of building up that sympathetic baby face, how much he loves his dad. And either that or, hell, even if his dad slaps him in the face and turns, I don't think you're going to see that. But,
no. If they were going to turn him back heel, though, I could see it where if they were willing to do this, I don't know, but this is WWE, if they would be willing to teach his dad real quick how to take a punch and just get one shot in by accident. Shane gets him by accident, and that just pisses Miz off completely.
I don't think – I don't see them – putting this work in. And here's the difference. We know what Miz was as a face before. We always knew he could be a good heel, and I feel like every time, I know they did a lot of kind of like weird turns with him, but every time he got better and better, and he's so hot now, and I think he finally is in that pocket of a guy who's figured out totally his character to where it can work as a face and he could still be red hot.
The reason why I think it does now is because of the fact, and oddly enough, I'm usually the guy who hates reality shows, but I think that truly 1,010% helped him be a babyface.
It absolutely did.
Because now
100%.
you get to see what he's like outside of the ring, and you realize, he seems like he's a pretty cool guy outside the ring.
Yeah.
Now people can buy him as a babyface, whereas before you could not buy him at all as a babyface. You could only ever see him as being a heel.
And I feel like I don't want to get like deep into their shows or anything, but the what makes that better than like say a Total Divas type of show is they're both very likable. Like they kind of just come off like are they a little over the top with things sometimes? Sure. I mean, they live a little more of an extravagant lifestyle than we do, but in terms of just I know I'm downplaying a little bit. But in terms of like just in terms of like the way they interact with each other as like a married couple and like those different things, they come off very likable and like very like it seems very genuine. It's not looking at people and trying to figure out, is this forced? Is this a storyline? Like
it's so adorable, you almost want to vomit. You know, like
and the best part about it is it's only a half an hour each week too. So it's enough of a shot that you get a little comedy in it, and then you're done with it.
Yeah.
Joey DiBardino, what's up, Joey?
What's up?
Joey says, do you guys think the women's division has regressed since the evolution? I'll let you go first because I got my opinion on it.
I mean, I don't know if it has as much regress as it has now folded into the system. You know, where now it's not so much of, oh, wow, this is amazing. Women could do all these things now. It's like, now you already know women can. So now it's kind of just falling its way into, okay, women's division can be taken as seriously as the men. It's not as much of a new thing as it was. Now we're starting to see, the progress of like, okay, women in NXT are like men in NXT. They're developing and then they're eventually going to get brought up. It's not as much of a novel thing as it was 2-3 years ago when we were starting to see the evolution really kick up and ramp up and like, holy shit, look at how all these things they're doing now. And yeah, they're doing the firsts and they're continuing to do the firsts, but you know that it's coming now. You know that it's like, all right, they're getting put on the same footing as men now, so it's only a matter of time before these things happen. It's not as a big surprise as it was beforehand, you know?
I don't think that it's regressed at all in terms of look at all those firsts that they have. And I know a lot of it seems like it's a little bit like corporately forced to you know, be that, hey, we're the company that is empowering women and this and that, which is totally fine because I believe that should happen.
Of course. Yeah.
But, you know, it's hard to say anything's regressed. And, I mean, it's not just that. They're bringing in talent from all different avenues. You know, we talked about, you know, obviously, clearly a Ronda Rousey, and women from MMA are now interested in doing it.
Of course.
Hell, Cyborg's name's been thrown as a potential person down the road in the next year or 2 years that might want to consider doing the jump to WWE.
Boy.
But even outside of that, we talked about it, Casey Catanzaro, Ryan Brodo's new favorite little love bunny.
Big fan.
Casey Catanzaro. Me too. You know, you're creating an intrigue and something that these women who are legitimate athletes want to be a part of.
Of course.
I think it's huge. The only part where I say I don't know if it's a regression, but it gets stale and it's at a standstill is we're still seeing Sasha, Bayley, Becky, and Charlotte. Now, Becky and Charlotte, it's a little different now because it's not the same thing we saw 3 years ago, really, with those two. But I'm seeing the same Bayley and Sasha, and we're playing off of our friendship from NXT, and we're best friends, and we hug. There's been no evolution for their characters.
Because they've refused to
So
do
by
it.
constantly rewarding them with, you know, the prize while all the other women get the participation trophies for just being in the matches, that's a problem for me. The only one who got a push after the fact was Asuka. And it's been a questionable push at best.
Well, unfortunately, it continues to be questionable since now they got to try and line somebody up for her at Mania. I think.
Tell me something. I want you to answer this for me, and I want Ryan to answer this for me as well.
Sure.
Asuka comes out of the Royal Rumble and taps out the man, Becky Lynch.
She does.
And yet again, looks like an absolute dope on television like she did when James Ellsworth unmasked against Carmella and loses to Mandy Rose immediately. And really, it's her first television match after the Rumble because she's been off of TV. How does that make any sense?
Well, see, that was all bad booking when you get right down to it because, again, if it had been me, I would have looked right at that situation and said, all right, if we are going to have Charlotte beat Asuka, this is how it has to go down. Yes, she taps. Yes, we do all that. But Asuka does not hug Charlotte. Asuka does not do anything with Charlotte. Asuka goes away.
I didn't mind that, though.
But here's the thing, though. This is how I would have played
it's
it off.
everything after the fact.
But
they made her look like a fucking idiot because she lost one time.
But it all ties up to this. I would have done this route. Said, okay, if we're going to go this route, Asuka goes away. She doesn't show up on TV or nothing. You want to know why? Because people are going to wonder, where the fuck is Asuka? What is going on? And right when you least expect it, Carmella could be champ and she can have a small run. A little run. Let's say like a few months or what have you. Get to SummerSlam. Asuka's been back. She shows up on a SmackDown, shocks the world, takes out Carmella, and says, I'm going to take this title from you now, and she does. Then and then, if you do that, Asuka looks strong because, yes, she's lost, but she kind of went back to refocus herself.
But here's my thing.
But
I'm not even going that far back. We know the mistakes that were made in the past with Asuka, but they bought her back. They put her back in a prominent role, and in a lot of ways have started to rebuild. And after she beat Becky Lynch, I was okay with leaving her off TV and running those 2 vignettes that they ran to build the anticipation back that Mania season, Asuka's getting ready to go on a run. And then the first chance you get, you have her pull the same stupid shit that happened with Carmella. She falls for some dumb shit, and then she ends up losing on a roll-up to Mandy Rose.
Well,
like, what?
It's an example of them booking themselves into a corner. It's the example of we've known for the past year to year and a half to almost 2 years that the main event, or at least the big women's match, would be obviously Charlotte, or not really necessarily Becky, but for a while we've known Becky, Charlotte, and Ronda would be all involved in the same thing.
Mix, right.
So that was their main focus. Okay, how do we do that? And then I guarantee you, if it's Vince, if it's whoever's running SmackDown, or at least the writing, they thought, okay, we'll just figure out what we're doing with the title in that spot.
Right.
We'll just figure it out.
But again, this is all coming from the fact that they're relying so much on writing. They're not focusing on like the wrestling logic that should kick into you and say, like, listen, let's look at.
See, I don't think it's relying on writing. It's relying on the fact that they think that everybody has to see Charlotte and Becky in the main event at WrestleMania. Instead of, it's very nearsighted. We're looking at. This could be a show that the women could absolutely steal this show by not just main eventing it, but making sure both titles could be show-stealing matches by having your 4 biggest women. And that's not Sasha and Bayley. It's Ronda Rousey, Becky Lynch, Charlotte, and Asuka. And it's a huge opportunity to build off of last year, and you could have had Asuka come back and put a new superstar on par 100% with those 3 by going in and saying, hey, she tapped out Becky Lynch at WrestleMania. And guess what? She got her win back against Charlotte. And you know what you know how you spin and you cover up and validate your booking previous in the year? Similar to the John Cena rebuild to him and Rock 2. It's she lost herself. And then it was her road to redemption. And at WrestleMania, Asuka rediscovered who she was.
That's exactly what I would have done in the Asuka situation, where it's just like, because you look at Asuka's character and you look at what she is. Asuka's not the type to tag with like somebody like Naomi and feel the fucking glow. I'm like, we're supposed to have this perception that Asuka's a warrior, right? Asuka's this fearless, tough, unstoppable force. Well, when you put her in a stupid program with Naomi and she's feeling the glow, like, first off, Naomi's character is what it is. It's for the kids almost. It's like it's not really meant for somebody like Asuka. It just kind of detracts from her. Slowly but surely it does. Again, they recovered by having her win the belt. But the problem is that, and then she beats Becky, but the problem is, I'm like, well, now she's kind of lost in mid-card hell because it's like, well, what the fuck? Now she's got no match for WrestleMania because you put Charlotte in the main event. And now we have nobody on SmackDown to take her place because what are you going to do? Ember's hurt, so you can't bring her from over to Raw. Are you going to call somebody up? Are you going to have somebody from NXT show up? Since you've been calling everybody else up, it looks like you're going to have to fucking do it now.
No, No, you won't. No, you won't. I'll tell you what you will do. Well, first off, to explain the whole random, she gets pinned on the first time she's back thing, you have to give Mandy Rose a little bit of headway just because, that's the match. That's the match at Fastlane.
But not at the expense of Charlotte.
I know.
She could have attacked her and beat the shit out of her.
I understand it.
Not at the expense of, I'm sorry, Asuka. Not at the expense of Asuka.
I would have avoided having Mandy and Asuka in a straight fight because I want Mandy Rose to be a chicken shit heel. I want her to be a chicken shit heel because that's the kind of character she's coming off as, So it's like, okay, have Sonya wrestle Asuka. What's the big deal if Sonya takes a pin to Asuka? It's not going to damage her in any way, shape, or form, and that's a way for Mandy to hide until the pay-per-view. There you go, problem solved, and Asuka doesn't look like a smackdass on fucking Tuesday night.
I'll just tell you, they don't have to call anybody up for WrestleMania because she's facing Lacey Evans at WrestleMania. I'm just telling you.
It wouldn't shock me.
Well, and I'm telling you right now, way too early prediction. They're going to redo what they did with Jericho and Fandango. Lacey Evans is beating Asuka at WrestleMania.
I don't know about
I'm
that.
I'm
I'm
telling
not
you.
going to go to
I'm
that
telling you.
level.
She didn't look that good at the Rumble, and she hasn't been wrestled.
New to
and she hasn't
Fandango.
wrestled
New to
since.
Fandango. They did that.
I'm not
They
gonna
did
go
do
to
that, but no
level.
title
I
was
will.
on the line. I mean,
But we'll mark it down. That's something that you said. Because
I'm
if
wrong with
that
it.
comes to fruition, Ryan, I'll sit here without a shirt on and do a show with no shirt and let
We'll see now.
hang out.
We'll see now. I hope I'm wrong.
and then you know what?
I'm doing a show shirtless with my belly hanging out if that happens.
And if that happens, then Asuka's letting her contract run out, and she's going back to fucking
no,
Japan.
she's not going to do
It's
that. I
like,
don't think she'll do that.
no.
But no, I'm going to say it every week, and I'm going to do it every week. So brace yourselves out there, fam, because you're going to hear me say it every week. I can usually find an explanation for things. I can even understand why you put Charlotte in the match. And in ways, I do believe Charlotte deserves, of anybody, even over Becky, Charlotte, for the first WrestleMania main event, does deserve to have a role, even if she's just there to take the pin, to get the participation trophy, as I like to say.
And to get the heat off of Ronda.
That's fine. I get it. And the instant reaction is, well, Becky's the hottest thing, and they didn't finish the Survivor Series thing. Okay. But now that you're starting to see, okay, you forget how really good Charlotte can be as a heel, it makes a lot of sense, and she does deserve the nod. We're not talking about like her being in another first Hell in a Cell match or them forcing her into that tag title thing because it's got to be Charlotte. It's WrestleMania. And of all these women, the one top dog, and it's not being forced, or the majority of it wasn't being forced down our throat, was Charlotte, because she was head and shoulders above everybody for a long, long time. That being said, I still find it extremely closed-minded and short-sighted to not understand that you have the opportunity in two instances to really dig your feet into the ground for this women's evolution and say, we had two show-stealing matches on that show. Because we had Ronda and Becky main event and this and that, and then we had Asuka and Charlotte tear the house down and put both women's title matches on the same par to where they are must-see, can't miss. But instead now, Asuka's getting rolled up by Mandy Rose, and we have no idea because there isn't anybody. There's no glaring names because they're the four. You can't even do the default and go back to Charlotte or Becky and Sasha because now they're going to be doing the tag team title match at WrestleMania. So where do you go? Do you go to NXT? Do you bring up a Kairi Sane or what's the other girl's name?
Mia Yim.
No, I would.
Shirai.
I would love Mia Yim.
Io Shirai.
Io Shirai.
Oh, Io Shirai. Okay.
Or do you go to NXT UK and bring one of those women over here?
Rhea Ripley.
Rhea Ripley would be amazing.
Big fan.
Or I mean, shit.
You could do champion versus champion with Tony Storm and Asuka.
You could do Tony Storm and Asuka. You could go and I don't want it, but you could. Do you have to go to Shayna Baszler at this point?
No.
I don't know.
No.
But it
this
shouldn't even. It shouldn't have even been a question.
No, you're right.
There's no reason to have that kind of a question. There's no reason to have to, and I don't mean to disrespect any of them, but have to dig through the bottom of the barrel and look for something when it's right in front of your face.
So are you saying that Charlotte getting put into the main event was lazy booking?
Huh?
Are you saying that Charlotte getting put into the main event is
In
lazy
ways
booking?
it is, absolutely. Let me get back to the fam. We went off on a tangent, and that
What a shock.
sometimes that happens. You know, I get a little fiery when something stupid shit like that.
No,
makes
because it is
sense.
stupid shit, and it's worth ranting about. You're right.
I'm going to go back to the ones at Tom, but Mike Mitchell does say, and I hope Greg Malakovic is listening to this, that he will donate a jersey if we take down the Brady. We're trying, believe me. It's not our call. John C. Danzo says, if and when The Miz turns face, will we see a reunion of him with The Miztourage? I mean, they're just sitting on the sidelines. I don't think. Nah, you don't need to go back to that
no,
with
because-
Miz at this point.
See, you usually do the stable thing with heels. Usually that's the whole idea. And then the babyface follows by having a stable of his own so he can get the one-on-one match.
You're right. It kind of gives them a rub, and I don't think you're going to need that anymore.
Oh boy.
I have a signed Jaworski dead serious.
Oh no, the one above it. The one above it.
I'm a Bears fan. How about Cody?
We're big fans of him.
We love Cody.
Just not on our team.
Shit, man, both of those. I may have to take that as propositioning pieces back to the chairman.
We have to put Cody Barkey on here. Just like until the beginning of the season, like we kind of have to. Like we have to, like right there.
We will, but I could tell you we could, but the Brady jersey won't come down. I can guarantee you.
Well, maybe if it just disappears one day.
To answer the question, though, I think you're right. You hit it spot on. Usually that's with a heel to give him a rub. You don't need that. And I think Miz is now at that level where he's beyond the Miz Dows and the Miz Taraj and all that crap and the the show Miz.
I mean,
and all that. He's above that now.
I will give Miz this. At least he gave Damian Sandow, Bo Dallas, and Curtis Axel their most prominent parts of their career right there. Even that's more than Curtis Axel holding the Intercontinental title. That was even bigger than that.
I mean, at this point now, he went from having those guys to being with Shane McMahon in a featured spot. I don't see them regressing on that with a guy that's been moving forward. Raska says he's pulling double duty. Appreciate it, Raska. Aaron Warren asks, what do you think about Adam Cole, and is he the next guy in NXT with the recent call-ups? Wouldn't shock me if they come up after WrestleMania. It wouldn't shock me, though, if that waits until after SummerSlam as well.
I could see them taking over NXT, like Undisputed Era, just kind of being the...
How long did you wait for Finn? A long time. Brian said, wow, that was a long time.
It's been 84 years.
It's been 84 years.
But I could see it being where Undisputed Era kind of dominates NXT. They got the belts, and they're just the kings. Like Adam Cole's the world champion. Roderick Strong has the North American title. You can go with Red Dragon, as I always call them that, with the tag team belts, because I don't think they've held them, actually. Or did they, and Fish got hurt?
Fish got hurt.
Okay.
Roddy Strong ended up taking
in,
and he's kind of just maintained that role.
Gotcha. But I think you go that route almost, because since the War Raiders are champions now, you can take the belts off of them, put them on those guys. It's a legitimate title change, and they can dominate for a period. They could come up after they could lose the belts or whatever, bring them up, or they can even come up as champs since they're not against that now and be like, we dominated NXT, now we're going to dominate the WWE, because Undisputed Era is legitimate no matter what member you choose.
I hope that they do bring them up as a faction.
I do too.
And they give them a run for a year or so. I mean, I don't need a long run with them, but I would like to see them kind of do a reprieve of what the Nexus could have been. It's more known, established talent, so I think the pop would be massive for these guys. And I think that as far as the lack of follow-through that you saw with Nexus, because when that debut happened, that was shocking.
It was.
To this day, even knowing how it all played out in the end, I still can go back and watch that segment, and it was brilliant.
In an era where it was just dead. There was no surprises. There was
You were
no
doing
nothing
Raw Roulette
going
with
on.
Great Khali doing dances
Yeah.
with Farting Natty on the same show.
Yeah, it was just like, that was awful. And that was such a major thing. It changed everything. I could see it being something like that where it's literally the tagline is shock the system for Undisputed Era.
Yeah.
That legitimately would be a shock to the system to have that stable come up, be a stable, dominate for a while, and just be unstoppable almost against really talented veterans that WWE has. You could see an Adam Cole versus a Seth Rollins, which would be a tremendous match.
Yeah.
Roderick Strong up against somebody like give me a powerhouse. So give me a powerhouse of some kind because Roddy's really super strong. So
Big E.
There we go. We can go with that.
I mean, you really could do, if you do keep the New Day together, you could do a New Day feud with them.
You could totally do that, and that'd be a great rivalry right there. Honestly could.
That would be one of your top factions that you have actually kept together and has been successful, and you come in and say, no, we're taking over that role now.
Absolutely, and you could have
that could lead to the breakup.
You could have Big E versus Roderick in on part of a show, and then you can have Kofi and Xavier face off against Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly. That would be a tremendous matchup right there with four guys that can fly,
To me, if you're really going to try to capitalize on this, the only way to bring up Adam Cole is to bring him up altogether with everyone.
I agree.
Because,
Has to be, yeah.
And this is not a spoiler because it's obviously not going to happen, but I read numerous times that they planned, if they signed Young Bucks and Kenny Omega, that they were going to introduce them in an invasion angle. So they're already talking about an invasion angle. So what's the next best option? Guys you already have.
True.
And that's the Adam Cole and the Undisputed team.
True, since it's obvious the Young Bucks and Omega have made their case for WWE well.
I think Kevin Owens comes back as a face.
Yep.
I think Sami Zayn comes back as a heel.
Yep.
I don't know, and you may have a better insight, or you can look it up, the timeline, how far we are from Zayn's return.
Zayn is farther away. I
think he's like 4 or 5 months still, right? Maybe further.
They want to try and get him back for around WrestleMania, but he's the one that if he does come back, they're really pushing it. So he's the farthest away out of anybody.
What I could see is Sami Zayn coming in and introducing those guys and doing like almost, we heard rumors of, doing some sort of an ROH faction, and maybe Kevin Owens would lead that charge. I think we talked about that last year, probably around SummerSlam of last year. I could see them doing something like that where Sami Zayn comes in and Sami Zayn essentially introduces these guys and brings them in.
Everything is about to change.
Dynamite dropping. I could totally see that. I agree, though. I think that they need to bring them all in together.
Yeah, because it'd be fun. Because it'd be the first time you see a really dominant faction come in pretty much since not even Nexus. So I'd say the Shield.
Yeah.
And that would be a great picking up point where the Shield left off. Undisputed Era picked it up and kept going. You know?
Mike Mitchell says, me, Chrome is, and he is dead serious. He would give us the Jaworski to sign Jaworski to replace the Brady. He would.
Please don't.
Joey DiBardino, he says, I think The Miz is long overdue for another WWE title run. In my opinion, I think we totally agree here. Yeah. John says, with AEW gaining steam, will we see a hold on WWE releasing people? I don't think we're going to see a hold because
No.
I mean, the Neville thing was a little bit weird, but I don't think he did himself any favors. I think if somebody doesn't do themselves any favors, they have no problem of giving them a little pushback. But
they'll be more cautious with who they let go.
Here's the thing. I don't think that WWE is threatened that much by them because again, we say it all the time. Until they get a TV deal, it's an occasional event company and it's a T-shirt company. I mean, I think that they will be successful. They have the financial backing, but I don't think Vince sees them as Vince isn't going to make business decisions based on what AEW is going to do. That's the point I think I'm getting.
Not only that, too, again, like I said before, it's almost a good thing because, again, AEW can take some talent that doesn't like where they are in WWE, but you have NXT and you have all this talent that you keep signing and bringing all over, and they become stars in NXT. Okay, fine. You want to go to AEW and make tons of money and do whatever the fuck? Fine. We'll just take this person up from NXT and plop them right in your spot. I mean, it's really not too hard for WWE to fix any problems that AEW may or may not cause.
No, you're right, and that is a huge difference. I mean, there is a legacy behind WWE, whether we like it or not. There is a legacy. There is a storied history and tradition with that company, and there are guys who would love to work for that company. Kenny Omega, even with signing with AEW, did nothing but speak highly about WWE. He did not shut the door on the possibility of working with WWE in the future. He actually said that he came out of it feeling really great about the opportunity that they did discuss. He didn't get super great into details, but he said he was very impressed with them. And a couple years ago, he kind of debunked that he would ever go there, but you could see over time that he was kind of leaning off of that. Most of these guys at some point want to wrestle in WWE. Maybe not everyone, and it's not always greener pastures for everyone, but
it's not only that too. What's the first wrestling you're going to most likely watch nowadays? It's WWE. So it's like you grow up watching WWE. Your dream is to wrestle for WWE. Your dream is to wrestle at WrestleMania in the main event, So it's no surprise.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody is really looking at it as true competition aside from Jericho putting that out there. You've never heard Cody say that. If anything, when they speak, they talk about it as an alternative, changing what people commonly see and showing people that there's other types of wrestling out there. It's not just one type.
Yes.
That to me doesn't say, hey, I'm going to try to put that type out of business. It's saying, hey, we're going to show you that there's something for everybody, and we're going to give you that opportunity to see that alternative.
Well, business-wise,
That's the problem WCW didn't have. They couldn't be an alternative. They had to try to, Eric Bischoff had to try to run Vince out of business.
Well, Turner wanted that, but secondly, at the same time,
Both.
too.
I think it was both, right?
Both, yeah. But also, WCW couldn't be an alternative anyway because of the fact they already had an established legacy already. They had always been the number 2 to Vince for years.
Yeah.
That goes back to the territories
Sure.
with them. So
No, you're
it was totally different.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. They have something now that they didn't have before, and that is a farm system that they can develop talent out of. Joey DiBardino says, why do you think Dean Ambrose didn't renew his contract? I'm not convinced that this is not a storyline. I have read multiple conflicting things on this, and there is a site that I have read some stuff off of that has tended to be pretty correct on a lot of things over the last year or so. And on it, they speculated that this was a storyline that Ambrose thought up and that will eventually lead to Ambrose is going to re-sign a deal. But they are really hamming it up. I don't know. I don't know.
No. If it is, it's a brilliant storyline because it's the smartest time to even try something like this because of AEW. It's like, why not? Like, seriously. Like, it's the most time you're going to get eyes on somebody like Dean Ambrose.
Right.
Maybe you can take a big push off of something like
this.
this.
And you're right. I mean, if it is true, I think it's just for simple fact that he would like to have more of a creative input on his his career, which is understandable. If that's what you want to do, and that's fine. I mean, listen, that's why there's an alternative.
Of course.
And he would be a huge addition for AEW if he was to go there. But I don't know. We'll have to see how that plays out. I'm not really sure how that's going to play out.
We'll see. We'll see when the time comes for his contract.
Yeah. We're going to be getting ready to jump over to the YouTube in a couple of minutes. I did want to make sure, guys, before we do, we're going to drop the link, and it should be at the top of the page. Please join us if you're on Periscope, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, wherever you're at. Click the link. Continue the conversation on the other side. We take usually about a 10-minute break or so, and then we pick up on YouTube for the second half. But I just want to remind everybody, there's a lot of great content on A2D. First of all, like YouTube. Give us a thumbs up. Follow us on YouTube. Subscribe. A2D Live. Make sure you guys follow that. Give the page a like. A2D Radio, give that a like. Our Real Talk group, we drop a lot of stuff. We interact with a lot of the fam in there. Guys, make sure you're finding us on all the different platforms.
Absolutely.
Twitter, everything.
Absolutely.
And also check out our shows. We like to call this the alternative night, right? Thursday night is the off night. We're the black sheep of the family,
yes.
right? We got wrestling at 10 o'clock. We have hockey happy hour. And then tomorrow we go back. We got Philly Sports Guys. Saturday we got the Hooligans. Sunday we have the flagship show, Agree to Disagree. Monday, In This Very Ring drops early in the day. Then we have the Sports Hounds on Monday night. We got Birds of a Feather, an Eagles-driven show on Tuesday night. And Wednesday night, we got The Fix, where Ryan is featured on there, as well as AM and the PM. There's a lot of really awesome content. If you're a person who has a business and you're looking to even expand your social media growth, A2D is an awesome platform to do it. We let you guys drive, as you see. We have a plan for the show, but we let you guys carry the show. If you want to talk about something, we're going to talk about what you want to talk about.
Yeah.
And if you're looking to grow your social media presence, or you have a friend who's looking to do it, reach out to us. Let us know. We have some opportunities. Maybe there's a partnership. So please just follow all the social media. Get in touch with us. We love talking to the fan.
And if you're on YouTube and you're subscribing to us, the little bell icon that you see off to the side when you subscribe, click that. So that way you get notified the moment somebody's going live or the moment we upload something else.
There you go. Maddie, read our sponsors, pal.
All right, then. So this first portion of Lazy Booking was brought to you by Scanzano Sports Center, located at 5 Carnegie Plaza in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. You can give them a call at 856-889-3434 or visit them on the web at www.scanzanosports.com.
Other side, guys, we'll talk Elimination Chamber. We got some other points we want to talk about. We're going to talk about whatever you want to talk about. Click the link, make the jump. The Ginger Gang will be coming back at you on the second half.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Lazy Booking right here on A2DRadio.com. We are in the Real Talk Studios here in Mountie from New Jersey, brought to you by Sports Outlet. For all your sporting needs, located at 703 Black Horse Pike in Glendora, New Jersey. Give them a call, 856-939-2030. Email them at sportsoutletnj@comcast.net or visit them on the web at www.sportsoutletinc.com.
All right, welcome back, fam. Hopefully you guys made the jump or stuck with us. We appreciate it. I'm going to run down because I apologize, YouTube fam. I didn't get to you guys as much in the first half. We're going to get in SJM, our buddy from Tuesday nights as well. I love SJM, chimes in. What's up, fam? Haven't been able to catch Lazy Booking in forever. Biggest shocker is the weird conversation between Ambrose and Rollins, LOL. I know it's not from the pay-per-view. However, it is what it is. WWE doing with Ambrose's character now that he's deucing. David Rosca, Mandy freaking Rose is getting a shot at Fastlane against Asuka. You finally got your moment. He says Absolution will win their WWE Tag Team titles. They're not Absolution anymore. They're Fire and Desire. And he says Mandy wears, and he says Mandy's also going to have the SmackDown title.
Oh, that's a terrible name.
Love SJM. Make sure to emphasize the bro dough on there. Love it, fam.
Where?
He says Nia and Tamina equal typhoon and earthquake, the natural disasters.
Okay, that's a little cruel.
He said, let's see, David Rosca says, back in 2002, Triple H versus Undertaker should happen at Backlash for the Undisputed title. I don't know, man. That's like 17 years ago, brother.
Actually, that was at King of the Ring. It wasn't that good of a match.
He said, I guarantee fellas. He goes back to Backlash again, saying Austin and Hogan should have competed. SJM says, is Bailey and Banks the Hogan Savage Tower of Power in the women's division?
I mean, if Sasha ever turned heel, then yeah, because Hogan was kind of the heel backstage on that program.
I'm gonna say no, because I think that would be more of if it was Becky and Charlotte.
Oh,
they're
okay,
more on the
got
level
you,
of Hogan
yeah.
and Savage. To me, it's more of like the ultimate. Well, even Warrior was big. I mean.
Warrior was big, and then he did what he
I
did.
don't know. I don't know. I don't even know who I would compare them to. He says whatever the Hogan team was called, Mega Powers.
The Mega Powers, yeah.
Deshaun Dodge says, have Kofi turn heel, take the title off Bryan after Mania in a coward way. Bryan goes back babyface. I don't know, just an idea. Interesting idea. I don't think Bryan wants to be a babyface. I think Bryan felt like that ran its course. It'll get there, but I think you're going to get a good 1 to 2 years. I think they're going to continue to run with this Bryan heel run. There's elements I like about it.
It's not bad.
There's elements I like about it. I mean, it is his personality amped up to the 20th level.
But I like it because it's very relatable. We all have that one person we meet that we can't fucking stand, that's so environmentally conscious that you just want to smack them. And just like, you know what? I do what I do. I recycle like everybody else does. Shut the fuck up. Like, we all meet those self-righteous people. It's very understandable. I don't mind the heel run right now.
Have you seen that? Sorry
Plus
to
also
interrupt.
the change with the
People post
title.
that shit all the time.
I know, but remember when they did that with Jackie Chan?
Oh God, yeah.
Now Undertaker's that. Like, what are you doing?
Well, I mean, technically he's dead already.
I get the joke, but people were panicking online right now. Show Matt.
I know.
Do you remember when they
It
did
just
this with
said
Jackie
that-
Chan?
It said
Whoa.
Mark Calloway passed away with today's date.
Oh, with the fake
That's fake shit.
the
yeah.
fake stuff. They did the same thing.
It's the hoax, the internet.
They
hoax
do it all
that
the
they put up there.
time. They do it all the
Joke's
time.
on them. He's dead already.
Yeah, he's been dead for quite some time.
Ever
Since he left WCW. But anyway.
let's see. We're scrolling down. Man, there was a lot of comments. I feel
Yeah,
bad
they were
that I
flying.
missed them earlier. Rosca says Kofi will walk out as the WWE champion at Fastlane.
No. Oh, no.
Total Divas sucks balls. Sean Dodge says, I don't think they would have Kofi walk in Mania as champion. If they're going to give him the belt, it would have been an Elimination Chamber. Probably true. Or it would be after at WrestleMania to have that big moment.
Or after they do a proper build-up and then they decide to put the title on him, then which unfortunately they don't do all that often. But anyway.
John Danzo actually brings this. He just put it in here, but I guess just give us time. He said, also, guys, don't forget my question from last week about a new gimmick battle royal.
Yeah, so what we're going to do with that, John.
He says he hasn't forgotten.
I know. No, and I didn't want you to forget because I think I mentioned at the end of last week. What we want to actually do with that is we're going to take that, instead of doing a battle royal, we're going to do a gimmick tournament next week.
Bracket.
Mike Mataraki's back. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to take shitty gimmicks tournament, and I'm thinking we're going to do 16 singles, and then if we can come up with them, I'd like to actually do a sub-8 tag team bracket and crown a shitty tag team gimmick champion and a shitty gimmick champion. So we've done this before. We did greatest European champions of all time. And I think that we're going to go back and we're going to try to we crown Bulldog as the greatest of all time.
That's going to be like the entire show.
Yeah, and if you no, it's going to be the whole second half of the show. But if you haven't seen that episode, by the way, guys, it is in the archive. Again, like I said, you can find it on YouTube, particularly to find that whole thing, because that was when we started doing the exclusive second half on YouTube. You can find it on YouTube. I'll try to figure out the date, and I'll pop it out there so you guys can find it. That was a lot of fun.
That was.
And we said we want to do more of those. So we figure that little in-between week between Fastlane, but before we fully go all out at Mania season, was a good time to drop it in. So we'll do that next week. And we're also going to do our Lazies Award next week for our 2018 awards. I have been slacking because I moved. Usually we do it at the end of January, but because I was moving in January and still getting settled, we were pushing it back, and we've pushed it back a few times. We're doing that next week. We got Mike Mataraki, Maddie's going to be here, Ryan's going to be here. I got a couple guys, as I did last year, that are going to be contributing to selecting some of the winners of it. So we're going to get that figured out, I promise you guys. So hold tight. I promise you, John, we're going to go over shitty gimmicks next week. And actually, do me a favor, John. I don't know if you're in the Real Talk group. If you're not, get in the Real Talk group or find me on Facebook and send me a message of exactly, because maybe if it's a different idea that you have, I can add that to that next week, and we can also make that a talking point as well.
Here, this is what I'll do for John and anyone on the YouTube. I'm going to start doing this all the time. I'm going to literally put the name of the Real Talk group in there, so all you guys have to do is literally take this name and type it into
or copy
like the
and
Facebook,
paste it.
Yeah, into the Facebook search engine.
Yeah.
Figure out what the name of it is.
SJM says WWE dug up the blueprint from the late 80s and 90s and is using it in the women's division. Agreed. Deshaun Dodge says, but you never know, WWE might call an audible and give Kofi the belt last minute. That shock factor would only last for a couple weeks, though. I think if they were going to do it, and I wouldn't have hated it, if they would have pulled the trigger at Elimination Chamber to change it up, I would have been fine with it, believe it or not. Even if they just had him drop it back at Fastlane.
I mean, you don't – I don't know. Call me old school, but I'd rather see him get that proper build-up. That's just me, though.
I mean, listen,
you know?
I mean, it's an old cliche, but it actually does reign true. The money is always in the chase for the faces. It's not necessarily the run with the title. Vester says something about, I can't believe adults watch pro wrestling. Well,
Believe it.
believe it, brother. That's it. SJM says, not only do we watch it, there's an awesome show, cough, lazy booking cough, to discuss it. Absolutely. Rosca says, Women's SmackDown Championship should be on the line. Elimination Chamber last Sunday. Rosca, you go back to like past stuff a lot, man. And he says Roman Reigns is coming back Monday night. Absolutely. That's going to be really interesting. Roman's coming back. He's going to give us an update on his health. I'm really excited for that. I'm interested to see the reaction as well. I expect the roof to blow off that place.
Absolutely.
I still find
not reaction as in, are they going to cheer him? We know they're going to cheer him.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm really interested as soon as that music hits, how crazy that place is going to be.
He kind of needs to open Raw, right?
I would think he would. Yeah, you can't do an ending segment with Roman.
They got nothing else.
By the way, have you guys witnessed a worse crowd than Lafayette?
Terrible. Absolutely terrible.
I mean-
Which one was that again? Raw or
the-
SmackDown?
Well, it was Raw.
Raw. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
That's actually going to be – that's a great point because that's going to lead into the NXT debuts conversation. So Let me run through the
Yes.
last couple here, and then I want to get into it because your point was exactly something I wanted to bring up in that, and if they handled that the right way. SJM says competition breeds excellence. Case in point, NFL. They're talking about the Fox deal.
Yep.
Andrew says it would help the Fox deal, in my opinion. I think I missed that. Andrew says, you think NXT, Raw, and SmackDown doing a territory thing where talent crosses each promotion? I think that they're getting rid of brand splits the closer we get. Because the point was made after I read it before the first point, but the Fox deal, Fox is going to want to have accessibility to as much talent as they can get, including Brock Lesnar, if he's still under contract. And absolutely, they made it a point that they want Ronda Rousey on their programming.
Well, not only that, too, also, if you can't figure that out by now, you can see the little hint, and wink. They made the women's tag team titles dual branded. So I'm like, well, that should tell you everything you need to know where the future's lying right now.
Yeah.
That brand split's going to die real soon.
I'm not going to read, John, I'm not going to read the spoiler just because some people don't know about it yet. So if you don't look at it, if you don't want to say it.
Oh, I read it.
Did you know about it already?
Yeah.
Okay. I won't read it because Maddie doesn't know.
No.
Maddie doesn't like spoilers.
Thank you.
So I'm not going to get into that one. We tried it.
They're all gone.
Some
Maddie.
of them I read. It's in regards to the NXT title one of the NXT titles that we talked about earlier. Okay, so John said he's going to get in contact with us so that we can move on with that. Moving on with the card, let's just run down the card real quick.
Sure.
I mean, really, we could skip some stuff. Becky, Charlotte, and Ronda. Obviously, we had the Ronda squash match, which in turn was set up so that you could have the confrontation between Charlotte and Ronda,
And Becky.
which then turned into Becky making an appearance.
I mean, I actually felt bad for Ruby in that case because I'm like, boy, man, you made Ruby look like a fucking You made her look like she was nothing but a rag doll in that match. And then
Squash match.
And then to try and make up for it, you give her a really good match on Monday Night Raw. No, fucker, give her a good match on the pay-per-view for the women's title.
I'm going to disagree with you because nobody mentioned anything. A lot of times when you see that stuff, people harp on the fact that it was a squash and somebody who shouldn't get it. If there was ever a time to do it, they did it at the right time, in my opinion, because there was no negative about Ruby. No, people didn't come out of it and say, oh, man, you made Ruby look so terrible. I mean, maybe some of us thought it in our head, but at the same time, to see the payoff, because I don't know about you, I didn't see the viciousness of that attack coming as it did.
Well, no.
You could see the crutch come down on Ronda's head and her head bust open. I mean, that had to be the most indestructible crutch I've ever seen in my life because she was beating the shit out of them. And I'm talking like there was no holdback. That wasn't a gimmick crutch. She destroyed them with that crutch. And then you know what? One started to bend just a little bit. She said, oh, cool, I'll take the other one. And started beating the hell out of them with that.
I get it. It's just I feel like you could do something like that on TV. Just as much as you could do it at a pay-per-view,
But it was so much better on the pay-per-view. I don't think you needed to do that on as a television thing. And I think that people probably would have expected to see that more on television than on the pay-per-view. It makes it something special because you can get for TV for free. But to get something like that, you have to subscribe to the network. This is what you miss. Maybe you should have had the network subscription. But with that, it did have that almost kind of Steve Austin feel again. And again, I know we talk about how some of it's force and some of it isn't. That was one of those where you didn't see that vicious of a beating. And when she's getting escorted out by security with a smirk on her face, very reminiscent of when Austin was taken out by security. I thought it was great. I thought it was well executed. And they found a way with this quote-unquote injury angle to keep things going.
Yeah, what I like about it, too, is that we're not going to have the stereotypical build-up to a title match where they're going to be in tags or they're going to be in this, that they're just going to let it ride and they're going to go at Mania. Like, that's the smart. They're going to let it, shocker, breathe.
Yes.
And they're going to let it have the big payoff at WrestleMania.
Well, that's the stark contrast, right? I always talk about it I'm a broken record with this stuff, but to me, it was the glory days of wrestling before Eric Bischoff started oversaturating it and forcing WWE to do the same thing, where the greatest rivalries in history had time to breathe. You didn't have a pay-per-view every week or every month. You didn't have – what do we got going? Sixers? Okay. You didn't have the same matches on Raw and SmackDown and all that shit. You might see on Saturday night's main event the main event participants in a tag team match, whether they were together, like you saw with Warrior and Hogan, that kind of started that very slow burn and build to that epic WrestleMania match. But all in all, they were able to let the story kind of breathe and let the character development happen and build those great storylines. Now we're in it's a different era of people who now the younger wrestling fans have been brought up in the era of immediate satisfaction. Yeah. It's really how our culture is in general.
Well, you also have to look at it this way, too. Even when they had the rivalry between The Rock and Austin, the way they got away with it for so long and not having Austin win the belt back immediately was because Vince McMahon was the boss. So they could get away with Austin not
going over. But even then it was a slow build because it started with the Intercontinental title.
And you're right.
Throwing the Intercontinental title over the the bridge. There was a lot of different things they did with that. Now it's the Kofi Kingston thing is an excellent example of it. And I love Kofi, and I'm happy that he's getting an opportunity. And I do hope that this leads to a slow burn to get him to that level. But we're a week and a half in, and people are furious he's not already booked for the WrestleMania match. Like, let's not forget, I don't think people realize everything that Kofi's getting now, that spot going an hour in the gauntlet match, and then with that long one-on-one in the Elimination Chamber, which we're going to touch on in a minute, that was Mustafa Ali's spot.
Yeah.
That wasn't a spot that was changed to fit Kofi. That was a Mustafa Ali spot. The only thing I've seen that was changed from the fan reaction was Kofi was not supposed to be the Fastlane opponent, and I don't think that was going to be Mustafa Ali, or maybe it was. But after the fact, after they got through the chamber, it wasn't supposed to be Kofi. But because of the reaction, they stuck with it, and they're rolling with Kofi in Fastlane.
But that's the thing, though. In a way, this winds up playing right into the hands because, again, slow burn. You can have Kofi lose at Fastlane. It doesn't kill him because fans are still going to think, man, that was a great match. But you could slowly start to build up that idea.
You could do a goofy or a dusty finish with Eric Rowan getting involved.
And the best part of that is it could slowly start to get into the fans' minds like, okay, Kofi can get pushed and he could possibly win the belt. And if you do build it up properly, and I say this 1,000 times, you want proper build-up for someone to win a title. You can't just pluck somebody out of the mid-card, slap the belt on them, and say, okay, you're WWE champ now. I'm like, what the fuck? Why is he champ? Like, It was different with Mahal, and I say it this way because Mahal was a heel. So it was, you're meant to hate it. You're meant to fucking not like it. So in a way, I see what they did. I still say that it's silly because of the fact that he was a nobody. But still, he was meant to be hated. He was meant to be booed. Fine. Sheamus was meant to be hated, meant to be booed. That's why he gets the belt. All right. Fine, perfect, even if it was by accident. Kofi, he's a babyface. You have to build it. You have to build it slowly. Daniel Bryan didn't get the belt immediately when he was a babyface. When people wanted him, they built it and built it and built it to the point where people were ready to blow. When he faced John Cena and he beat John Cena, and then you know what they did? They built it up again because you want to know why? Like you said earlier in the show, the chase is better than the catch at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
Two things. Number one, Boban Marjanovic is a freaking monster. Number one. Second of all, I believe, from my knowledge, the original plan for Daniel Bryan at Fastlane was Randy Orton. I believe that was the plan.
And that makes, it would make a lot of sense to me.
Especially the fact that he won. He ended up winning, obviously, not the qualifying, but the big match on SmackDown beforehand.
Yeah.
And he kind of had a so-so showing in the Elimination Chamber, thus leaving a lot on the table if they went in that direction.
Correct. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. So, in a time where really the heyday of WWE and pro wrestling had those slow builds, people can't even be patient for 3 weeks now.
Yeah.
Like, we're freaking out that this guy's got to be in the WrestleMania. They're not giving the people what they want because they didn't already announce Kofi Kingston as the WrestleMania 35 opponent.
You know what it is?
Like, let it build. Maybe he will be.
Well, you know what it is?
What?
It's Daniel Bryan all over again.
Sure.
It's funny that
It is.
It's Daniel Bryan's
As is
opponent
Becky
because
Lynch,
it's
right.
And in a way, listen, I'm fine if they go with Kofi. I think it's a good story. It's good for him, personally, obviously. Am I going to be killed if it's not him? No, I'm not. I would rather see Cena or Kevin Owens or Bray Wyatt.
Kevin Owens is a name that's been thrown out
yes, but to me, I think there's a really cool underlining story, kind of breaking the fourth wall type of a thing, that the first guy and the last guy that the fans truly got behind and kind of changed the outlook of a big title, actually the WWE title at WrestleMania, was Daniel Bryan. It's happening again, but to his opponent.
Sure.
So it's kind of like we're seeing it again, but it's somebody that's going against him.
And it's somebody who really just came out of left field, and not
Pretty
in the
much.
terms of his in-ring work, because a lot of us who watch a lot of wrestling, we know how good Kofi is, and we know how good Kofi could be with the right character and spot as far as the WWE product, which we're starting to see now. But there's a lot more to develop behind it without just saying, okay, we're just going to go. This could be a flash in the pan. Because how often when fans get what they want, do they immediately turn on it and now they don't want it? We saw it with Roman Reigns. Roman was the guy when the Shield broke up. Everybody thought Roman Reigns was going to be the guy. We want him to be the guy, and as soon as they got it, they took a dump all over it.
Let me give you. I just thought of this. I'll
John
give you
Cena, same thing.
a scenario, kind of like everyone wins type of a thing. Okay. What if you had a situation where you had the company guy or the original plan face Daniel Bryan, a la Kevin Owens, which I believe is the current plan and the original plan, and you have Kofi Kingston. What if you have a triple threat?
I would be fine with a triple threat. I have not heard that was the original plan. I heard that the situation is fluid because I heard Cena.
Well,
But I believe that now they're shifting off of that, and the idea is either Kevin Owens or they are monitoring how things play out over the weeks to where Kofi is actually an option on the table.
Mm-hmm.
But people don't want to allow that to happen. I need to know right now, because of the last 2 weeks, that Kofi Kingston is going to be the champion, or fuck WWE. They'll never give us what we
Well,
want.
you know what it is, to be honest? It's an example. Well, first off, I don't believe Cena, the whole Cena thing, was on the table. I think it's now on the table because of what happened with Sullivan, with Lars Sullivan, because it looked like those two were going to be going up against each other. I mean, we might, by the way,
What a mess that
we
was.
might never see Lars Sullivan ever again, to be completely honest with you. I wouldn't. Would you be shocked? I mean, he's on he's taking a leave of absence.
Wouldn't hurt my feelings.
No, I know you weren't. The
I
big
don't
Lars Sullivan
know.
guy.
It's just
I don't get it.
All I know is he's got some kind of anxiety issue of some.
Well, that's a problem. 'Cause
Yeah.
if you can't go out in front of, you want to put a guy out there in front of 75,000 people and to ask him to perform with an anxiety issue.
Well, not only perform on the mic, but perform as far as doing risky moves. I mean, listen.
Well, I mean, it's not even his own safety. You're putting other people's safety at risk. Absolutely.
Not the first time WWE.
Guy might have a
had that
freaking
on
heart
their face.
attack from an anxiety
Yes,
attack out
exactly.
there.
And the second thing is, I think the two plans all along over the last handful of months, because we know WWE, they change stuff all the time.
Of course.
I think it was either Daniel Bryan versus Randy Orton or Daniel Bryan versus Owens, to be completely honest with you. You know what I mean?
Hey, buddy. But yeah, I mean, I kind of bringing it back to where Becky and Charlotte were. I feel like that had that Austin moment. It was really good. Now getting into the actual chamber match, what I enjoyed was they did the opposite of the women. They got everybody. They got guys in, got some spots in. Boom, they're out. It's done. Let's highlight those guys. Let's see how the fans react off the momentum of the gauntlet match, and let's see how. And they had a phenomenal showing. The false finishes were amazing in that match.
Between just Kofi and Daniel alone,
Right.
Christ Almighty. Whew.
And by giving Kofi that spot at the end where Daniel's gone and letting Kofi take you off the air of the pay-per-view shows me that they understand that there's something there. And I think they always did. We talked about it last week. I've always read that WWE was high on him, and there was always the idea of giving Kofi an opportunity. I don't know if he was ever going to hold the belt, but they believed that he could be a main event player at some point. But that New Day stuff just took off.
But that's the thing, though. That's why I say, like, if you let it breathe out, he could be a main event player by December of this year. Who
He's
knows,
the good
you know?
version of Tito Santana in a sense of
Oh dear.
Vince fucked up with Tito, thinking he was the guy that you could rely on and could be an important piece. Kofi has the in-ring and the charisma in order to pull it off. And by the way, fuck Tito Santana.
He's going to make an appearance on this bad gimmick bracket, isn't he?
Oh, for sure.
Who do you think is
the
winning
worst
it?
ever?
I mean, the winner's already
Tito
decided.
Santana.
I mean, I don't know. You never know. Hey, surprises can happen. It is going to be our version of March Madness.
So we
always have that surprise.
We got 5 minutes left. I just want to real quick. I'm just going to mention it. Interesting news dropping. The Hogan movie. They are in now, beginning to get the works. There's going to be a Hulk Hogan not documentary, a movie about him.
Biopic, right?
Biopic with Chris Hemsworth, and it's not going to go into any of the late stuff. It's going to be early in his career and the rise of Hulkamania and WWF. Interested to see that. We don't have to discuss a whole lot of it, but I'm very interested. Clearly it's going to be a big picture if Chris Hemsworth, fucking Thor, is playing Hulk Hogan.
Well, I mean, it should be. It is Hulk Hogan.
My question to you, because I just saw it on Twitter. I didn't really read any details about it. Have they come up with a name of it yet?
I don't believe that they've come up with a name.
You should just call
of
it Brother.
yet. Brother. Brian Daly jumping in here. He's going to be coming at you with
Hogan's
Hockey Happy
Heroes 2.
Hour. Oh, good Lord.
God.
Good Lord.
Bri.
Phew. If anyone got that, good for you.
I had to Google search it for me.
Of course you did.
Quick reaction to the NXT call-ups. Were you okay with it? Were you as far as the way it was presented?
I mean, I don't know. It was kind of just there.
So I'm just gonna dive into it. Ryan's point was exactly right. I've heard a lot of backlash of they brought these guys in, they announced it ahead of time, and they went down and they like read all their accolades. I have no problem with that. There's people bitching about the fact that Champion Gargano came off as faces, and they may be faces. First of all, I have no problem with them bringing back his DIY to start. I think they need that boost to the tag division, so I'm totally fine with that. Number two, Ryan's absolutely right. What I hated was you chose Lafayette, Louisiana to do it with an absolutely terrible dead crowd.
Wait until Chicago. Go to Chicago.
But it took the impact away from it. And secondly, I have no problem with them giving the background of it because the casual fans who don't watch NXT have no idea who these guys are. But it's like, this is something special you're going to see, and we're going to showcase them in a featured match.
The only thing I didn't like was the way they brought Aleister Black in. They had him talk again. I'm like, for fuck's sake. Don't put the mic in his fucking hand.
They could have waited to have him talk. I agree with that as well.
Wait to quarter to never. No, he shouldn't talk. I'm sorry.
Right. Again, it's
He's not.
He's supposed to be like an
Right.
Undertaker character. Just don't put a mic in his fucking hand.
Second
It's
part.
not hard. I'll do it for you. I will be your mic guy, and I will lose the one that's meant for fucking Aleister. And even if he kicks my ass, I did the world a favor. I don't care.
A couple things. I'll go rapid fire. Number one, Louisiana. Really? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, it was
the
back
last time a big
New
moment
Orleans.
got no reaction.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Again, it's the New Orleans Saints factor. By the way, did you see the sign?
No.
There were New Orleans Saints got screwed signs all over the arena.
Oh, yeah,
So they cared about that more than the wrestling. But I digress.
Get
Second
over
thing,
it, guys.
The last time I saw a crowd so bad was when Evolution showed up like 4 years ago, and the crowd was dead.
Yeah, it
was
was pretty
dead.
bad. Yep.
To Maddie's point, you not only have Aleister Black debut against freaking Elias, who's twice the size of him, and also Elias, we're jobbing Elias now.
Oh, what the fuck?
But
Poor Elias.
it makes Aleister Black look puny, and then you have him talk, and he's not that good of a talker.
Yeah. Well, here's what I want to say about the Gargano DIY thing, and then we're gonna wrap up.
yeah.
When the Shield debuted, there was the whole, how are we supposed to forget that these guys just had this amazing 6-month feud? First of all, it's not an overnight thing. It's not a shot of, hey, we're going to forget what happened in NXT. These guys have been building for the last 2 months towards a mutual respect, or 3 months, to where they don't trust each other, but there's a mutual respect. Secondly, nobody had a problem when Ambrose and Rollins had an incredible feud in the developmental, and then as soon as they hit the main roster, there was no backstory, just that these guys came in together. And what did they do? It was to come in, change what the norm was, and to make an impact. So I had no problem with them coming in, and everybody's coming up and saying, you guys don't deserve to be here. So you know what? that could be our bonding moment. The four of us or the two of us, that'll be what brings us back together. Show these motherfuckers that we got a space on this roster.
And then one final thing before we wrap up. Just want to say this. Also, for the fans who complained about it, who are the smart fans, I'm like, guys, they're not insulting your intelligence. They're telling you that, yes, we are saying their accolades. We are saying that these guys were big stars in NXT, and we're putting them in big star programs. Like, what do you fucking want now? Like, seriously.
Real quick, the last thing I'll say is, whatever happened to the good old surprise debut? Why did it have to be announced an hour before the show on Twitter when it could have easily have been those four guys debut as a surprise? And the narrative could have been switched as that was an invasion. Even if it was fully planned all along, they just showed up spontaneously.
I think the Gargano and Ciampa one definitely would have gotten that. I think that would have popped it, honestly.
Ricochet would have gone
dead
crazy.
Crowd, I think that would have at least gotten a reaction.
I'm going to be honest with you.
I
don't think anybody in the crowd, if even as a surprise, I think they were worried about having a surprise and nobody react to it. Because what fans do is they react to what they see. Like you said, if they wait to do it in a town like a Philadelphia on March 4th,
please.
Philadelphia pops, you don't have to announce anything. And people who are the casual fan, when they see people react on television, they're like, this must be a big deal. I need to pay attention to this, as opposed to they're completely dead.
It was literally them debuting the Cruiserweights after the Cruiserweight Classic
Right.
Part 1. It was literally the same thing.
Yeah.
Like, oh, here's a bunch of guys. Here you go.
To me, this was them doing their best to try to cut that off, because I don't think there would have been any reaction if they did a surprise debut.
Correct.
Well, then it goes back to pick a better town next time.
Fam, thank you guys for the conversation. Hockey Happy Hour is going to be coming at you at the top of the hour. Maddie's going to read our sponsors.
All right, then. So Lazy Booking was brought to you, as always, by Gibson Mayer, LLC, your certified public accounts located at 301 Oxford Valley Road in Yardley, PA. Give them a call, 215-369-3300. It is that time of the year, guys, so be ready, be prepared, and call Gibson Mayer.
Guys, great week. Again, family, you guys drive it. We're talking about whatever you want to talk about. John, I'm going to read your message, buddy. Next week, we got the Lazies. We're going to do a tournament next week. We're going to have a lot of fun. Please make sure you join us. For you hockey guys, Hockey Happy Hour. 3 handsome sons of bitches going to be sitting on this couch and bringing the hockey action to you, and probably going to get an angry little elf and Maddie with this Flyers game after tonight. So, until next week, guys, from myself, until the top of the hour from Maddie, thank you, Ryan Brodo, as always, on the ones and twos. Guys, we will see you next week.